because I'm like, all right, why are you not a Christian? And one of the first things that he says was, um, I'm not a Christian because, I come from a wealthy background and I don't feel like God is necessary. I don't feel like I need God in my life, right? And that took me straight into the book of Matthew where it says that it's difficult. It's
Difficult
more
for
difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to enter into the eye of a needle, right? But remember, this is evangelism. So I'm not there to debate him. I'm there
Yeah,
to
yeah,
win him.
yeah.
And so I said, you know what's amazing to me? I said, God is not against your riches, but wealth could become a dangerous thing when you end up into a position like yourself where you feel like you don't need God. And we got to be careful. But I reach people like yourself all the time. He's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, not only am I a pastor, but I also work in the world of finance and I deal with multimillionaires every day. And usually when I'm trying to get to the heart of the person, if I'm dealing with someone who is not wealthy, I have to meet them in their need.
Hmm.
I was like, but someone who's wealthy, I have to meet them in their emptiness because they tend to struggle in that area. And you could just see his head go back, like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if he even caught the reaction. And one of the things that he struggles with is purpose. And so we began to have that conversation. I said, look, you can't get the purpose piece right if you don't get the God piece right. Because purpose is not something that you choose. Purpose is something that you discover. It's given to you. I was like, but when you don't have God in your life, then you choose purpose. I was like, but purpose changes when you change. Because
Hmm.
today you could say my purpose is to help people and tomorrow my purpose is to hurt them, right? It's really not an objective thing. But when you actually look in the Bible, when you begin to see that you were created to not only know God, but to make him known and to love other people as you love yourself, I was like, it changes totally the dynamic of your life. And so we was engaging in that and having conversations in that. And then he began to ask more questions. One of the questions that he asked, and I'm actually writing a free ebook on that should be coming out in a few weeks, is on the Trinity. He brought up the Trinity because in Germany, they're experiencing a lot of migration of people from the Middle East, and majority of people of the Middle East are Muslim, they're not Christian. And so when they want to attack Christian ideas, they tend to go to particular doctrines that Christians have a hard time explaining.
Yeah.
And one of them is the Trinity. If you go around churches today, more than half of the church wouldn't be able to explain it in a coherent manner.
Which is insane to me, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
because it's one of the main doctrines of our
Yeah.
faith. And yet it's something that we don't talk about in church. It's something that we don't really teach on in church. It's just implied that people are going to go home and study. And most people don't, unfortunately. Right. So I'm answering his questions on that. I'm breaking it down. Noah was with me. He also explained it phenomenally. And Noah's 25. So him and Tim were more.
Contemporary.
Yeah, because I'm 40. I'm an OG. I'm unk status now.
Yeah, but you don't look
Yeah.
like an unk, bro. You don't look
Yeah.
like an unk. That's
Yeah,
the
but
problem.
I'm unk status now.
You're
You
like
know?
Steph Curry. You're the babyface assassin.
Babyface assassin, man. But I'm not good at Steph Curry with the three, right? And so we explained that. And to make a long story short, God is just like, all right, I need you to get to the heart of the matter. And all of a sudden, I had this supernatural experience, and I haven't shared it with them, but I could just feel the prayers of Tim's parents on me, but not for me,
Mm-hmm.
for him. And then I just began to say, I said, Tim, I said, your parents love you and I know they pray for you. And you could just see his eyes well up. He's like, how do you know that? And I said, because here you are, a kid from Germany who's an atheist in Japan with a pastor from the United States and Japan in the middle of the rain on a random day. And I'm talking to you about Jesus. I was like, you can't tell me your parents don't love you and they don't pray for you. And you could just see him just hold him back. And I got to pray for him and lead him to Christ. And hopefully, right, that seed just continues to grow. And I'm a firm believer that when God starts a good work in you, that he finishes it, you know. So
Yeah.
prayers for Tim, much love to you. And I got to message him. Hopefully he's doing well because I got his information.
Mhm.
and I got Noah's information and Russell's information and Pastor Master's information and Pastor Daniel's information. Like I made friends while, I got to be used by the Lord, not for my glory, but for his. And that's what
Yeah.
it's all about.
I wanna take all that to go into a little bit deeper, but now into your heart. Because every single time we speak, I really feel your genuine passion for the lost souls. And that is something, unfortunately, I'm not experiencing across the board with my colleagues
Mm,
in ministry. And I'm not saying we all have to have equal passion, but you really, 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 really have a passion for it. And this is gonna be more of an existential
mm,
question. Why? Why do you think you're so passionate about it? Aside from the love of God in you,
mhm,
is there something in your background that leads you there? And second, how is that lack of love, or how can I say this? Maybe you disagree with me, you can let me know too.
mm,
I see a lack of care to a certain extent. Churches today we've become more of a club than an outreach machine
mhm.
to like go out there and reach the souls. We become more like, if you need Jesus, come to me, but we're not going to them.
Yeah,
Um, why do you think that is?
man. I think there's so much to that. Um, Number one, man, God reached out to me first. Like it just gets me emotional thinking about it. But my family, we were lost. We were lost. We had no hope. And then God just took us and he plucked us right out. And so part of evangelism is just returning that favor. Like
What do you mean that you guys were lost?
I'm talking about we were out in this world. Addiction was big in my family. Abuse was big in my family. Um, we were lost in a sense of our own sins. We were far away from God, far away from people. And yet God used people to reach us, to help us get clean, help us get better, to connect us with him, to give us purpose to live for something and for someone. Um,
So how do you meet God?
yeah, and so my mom had a supernatural experience where she encountered Jesus in person, um, through a vision, right? That was one way, and another way was my sister got invited to a youth service. Her best friend in school was a Christian, in middle school, who was also one of our neighbors, Elizabeth. She lived down the street. She's a sister to me now. I call her a sister, but she reached out to my sister and she was just like, "Hey, Jasmine, you want to come to church? We're having a youth service." And my sister went to church and she loved it. And um, she knew that our family needed God. So my sister was being used by the Lord to evangelize to us, to invite us to church, and by Elizabeth as well. And so, that's God using people to like draw him to you, you know, or draw him to draw us to him. So that was one way. And so, yeah, evangelism is just like, all right, Lord, you reached out to me. Please use me to reach out to others. Following the Great Commission in Matthew 28:19, where it says, go out and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? Preach to all the nations. But the other thing too, that is not only in the front of my mind, but also in the back of my mind, because I think about it all the time, is that if I really preach this and believe this, then heaven and hell they're real places, right? And if you genuinely care about people, you don't want people to go to hell. And so you have a moral obligation to go out there and to tell people about Jesus and to warn them for what's coming. Obviously, you don't want to do it in a way like, "Hey, you're going to hell if you don't accept God." Obviously, you got to be more wise in the approach. My approach is I like giving people medicine in their juice, like how I do with my son. He hates medication, but he doesn't realize he's drinking it when he's drinking his apple juice, right? That's my approach in terms of evangelism. But if you truly believe in the Bible and you believe in heaven and hell and you're a Christian, then you have a moral obligation to go out there and reach the lost. I'm also a firm believer that, because I still have family members who are not saved, that I may not be able to reach them because of the connection. But if I
Mhm.
reach a stranger down the street, maybe they may be the catalyst or the bridge that God uses to reach a family member of mine, you know? And so that's how I think of it.